Okay, so what I've done here in the living room is I've basically created this little cozy, I call it the cozy corner. And basically what it is it's a way to make kind of a library space in a small space if you don't have room for a library. So it's a bookshelf and a cozy little chair. And what I've done is I've placed a chair in front of the bookshelf just to kind of create that little grouping there. And that's like a brown leather tub chair, and then there's a little footstool in front, and we've got a little pillow which has fallen over and a blanket. Behind the chair there's quite a bit of empty space, but it's not adequate enough to put like a piece of furniture there. So what we do, you can see peeking out just below the chair there is our vacuum cleaner, because we don't have any linen cupboard space, or utility cupboard space, so we have hidden the vacuum cleaner behind the chair. The first thing that you're going to notice is that there's not a lot of books on the bookshelf, and that's because this is in the main room of the house, and I didn't want it to be like cluttered with books from end to end. We do have another bookshelf downstairs in the rec room where only the family goes, that's full of all of our things like our reference books, paperback books, things like that, of that nature, that don't really look very decorative or pretty. So the first thing I would suggest doing if you want to do something that is similar to this is purge and clean out your book supply. So I've whittled down the books, and this is certainly not all of the books that we have, and there is definitely room on this bookshelf for even more books without it looking too cluttered. But I wanted to keep it pretty spare, and just to show you like how to decorate with books, and also how to decorate a bookshelf with other things other than just books. The next thing I do after I clean out my books is I take the dust jackets off them. By taking the dust jacket off, you get rid of all those like tattered and frayed edges. These ones aren't bad right now because these are basically new books. And they all have these really nice linen covers that you can use to like group all your books together according to color. The other thing to do is you can group your books according to subject matter. So I've got a little stack of books here that are all of my cosmetic books and my decorating books, and just some style books. So things that are kind of along, that are in that genre. That's my little pile of books. And then I know that I said to get rid of all the paperbacks and put them someplace else, but what I've done here is Marian Keyes is my favorite author, and I religiously reread those books. I read them all the time, so each one of them has been read at least 4 times. So for me, that is a sentimental reason to hold on to those books and to keep them in a prominent place, because I do read them so often and I recommend them to people as well. But instead of just having them sitting on the shelf, a really great way to group them together is to put them inside something else. So I've got this nice little wooden tray, high-sided tray, that was just the right size to hold all those books. It groups them together, and then by putting the little Russian nesting doll there, it ties in the colors and just creates a little vignette. Just like over here with those style books, I have, if you can see up here, this is a birthday card that I got for my 40th birthday, and it says, "Being fierce is a full-time job." And I just thought that was interesting. It speaks to me. It has, like it's a sentimental memento for me. So I put it in a frame and I put it with those books. Another tip is to use both vertical and horizontal stacking for your books. It's just my personal preference. I like to have little stacks of books like I've done here. The only problem with doing this is you have to look at the way that you will be using your books. So my husband has a tendency to do this. Takes the book out, reads it, and then goes like that. So what we do for my husband is we're going to take these books. Clearly that method doesn't work for him. So we're going to take them and we're going to stack them like this on the shelf. And just stack them vertically so that he can pull them out easily and not make too much of a mess. Now the other great thing about stacks of books like this is that they don't just work on a bookshelf. They also work on a table, on a credenza. Make them part of your decorating, especially if you can group them together with colors, like with light colors. And I find that books add kind of like a warmth to a space that's really nice, and they're just a really great tool for decorating. I use them all the time. Okay, So now we're going to move down here, and we've got some practical things on the shelf that we have to consider as well. Namely, I have my sound system, my Bose sound system on the bookshelf. So basically what I've done on this shelf is I've taken into consideration that the sound system is there. That's the best place for me. I love having it there. But let's not draw attention to it. So we're going to make sure that the shelf stays clean. And then I've just put a nice pretty stack of books beside it. So it ends up working, and it allows me to put something practical in the space. Then if we move down to the shelf, this is right at the height where my husband sits. This is his little center. So I've put a nice decorative tray in there for him to put his drinks or his keys, as you see there, because apparently he's a 17th century jailer, I suppose, or innkeeper. So he can put his drink there, not mess up the bookshelf. And then this little basket ties in the colors of the room. The yellow is the color of our walls. And then we have the gray in there because we have some gray furniture. So it works with the rest of the room, brings those colors to this end of the room, and it's the perfect spot for him to sit here, go through the mail, and slide in, like he just puts the mail all in there. I come along once a week, once a month. Most of our bills come online now, so I don't really have to worry about making sure that bills don't get lost in there, but I just collect all the papers, and then if you see down here, there is a file box. So inside there is hanging files, and that's where I keep all of our financial records from year to year for tax purposes and things like that. It's a really great way to give yourself some filing space without bringing a filing cabinet into the room, without making it look like it's office equipment, but creates a little, you can create like a little office nook. There's space down here as well that if you wanted to, and the shelves are deep enough. If you wanted to, you could hook up a little printer there or have some other office supplies. We could even put doors on the bottom shelf to hide that kind of thing. Gives you lots of versatility with using the space. But just having that little file box there allows me to keep all of our family paperwork together without having to have a big filing cabinet. So that takes care of the practical stuff. Then we've got the decorative elements. That should be, in my opinion, on every bookshelf. Down here, I've grouped 3 objects together, and that's another trick. Always group things together in odd numbers. I stick with 3 because it's easy. Even though these are all different objects, they kind of work together as far as height goes and shape goes. So they just make a little triangle, nice little grouping there. Then you've seen the decorative keys, just little decorative pieces. This little wrought iron bird is a very heavy little bird, and I got him in the garden center. Works very well as a book stop instead of having to go out and get bookends, because maybe you don't have need for 2, or you want to just have something that's different. The other thing I do with my decorative objects is I layer them. One thing that I love doing is putting pictures in frames, either at the front of a shelf or at the back of a shelf. On their own, these are not objects that I would necessarily pick to decorate with. So we've got this coal miner with a bucket full of coal, a wooden box, and then some ugly thing in a picture frame. But grouped together, they tell a story. They tell a story of my father, who was born and raised in Wales, and whose parents, or his father and his uncles, all worked in the Welsh coal mines. So his uncle, at one point, made the family tree, did a whole genealogy search and made the family tree. So I've got that framed. The little brass coal miner represents, you know, his family history and my family history. And it's sitting on top of an antique wooden box that belonged to my husband's grandfather. So they're all no longer with us. And these objects that are just decorative little objects that, you know, like become knickknacks, group them together, they tell a story, and they make a decorative vignette. And it works. So it fills a little space on the shelf, works together really well. You could do that with anything, like a little picture of someplace where you went on a holiday or something like that at the back of the bookshelf, and then layer in front. The next thing I wanted to talk about is how I place things on the shelf. So if you look, I've got a stack of books here, then I've got something like horizontal books there, I've got vertical books here. And what I'm doing is I create what's called a zigzag with them. So you always, your eyes, you can see I'm moving the camera the way that your eyes travel down the bookshelf. Instead of having stack of books, stack of books, stack of books, all the way up in a column, which again, because everything's not symmetrical, kind of creates some visual confusion. This keeps your eyes moving. You don't notice that the books are all different sizes and that those things are, you know, like, it just, you're always looking at something different. And the same principle works when you're doing page layout as well. It's called the zigzag. You want your eyes to start at the top and move their way down. So that's what you do with your placement. And then, as I said, you vary between using vertical and horizontal groupings of the books as well. Okay, one last thing is the top. We can't forget about the top because it's a perfect place to decorate as well. I tend to favor keeping things minimal, and again, I've grouped things in 3. So this bookshelf is fairly deep. So I've hung you can just see I've got like a red tin star hanging on the ceiling, or on the wall. And then in front of it, well in front of it, so it looks kind of weird from the side, but from the front, I've just got 2 other pieces. So we've got a wicker basket, and in that wicker basket is actually all of the vacuum attachments and the charger for my cordless vacuum, and then just another little antique mantle clock. So overall, you can see that even without using a lot of books, kind of grouped things together and decorated the bookshelf so that it is a nice decorative piece in the house and not just a mess. And I've incorporated some practical things like some office and file storage, place for my husband to sort the mail and put his drinks down, and we've got some practical things in here like the stereo, and then up at the top we've got the basket with the attachments in it. So we've learned how to group things together, how to decorate with books, and how to create a cozy little library corner in your tiny living room. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we will see you soon.